Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned into another live edition of the Locker Gnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short. It's your daily dose of me. This is usually about an hour long or so if you happen to be one of the patrons, and some of my patrons are behind me. They're in chat talking. I'm going to be covering a topic as I do every single weekday as a part of TLDR, giving you 3 reasons today as to why I believe Apple needs to develop its own search engine. And I'm going to use that term in a nebulous fashion as I go about describing why I believe Apple needs to kind of bring it in-house. This is very important. No, Jedi, I can't talk right now. I'm talking to everybody out there. You may be watching live if you are a patron. You can become a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com and signing up right now. And you get all of TLDR, not just this part. So if I seem like I'm a little off, it's not because I'm wearing my pajamas here. These are my Darth Vader underoos. I got those. Now, I realize this is not related to Apple or search engines at all, but I just want to say that I am wearing these right now. Oh, well, not all of them. I'm not wearing this part. Use your imagination. Or don't. In fact, most of you shouldn't. Strike that, reverse it. The first reason, and really this is kind of like 3 reasons in one, that I believe Apple needs to develop its own search engine, if we could call it that, and I'll explain that in a second. Privacy, security, and control. That's what it's all about. Privacy, security, and control. Apple's control. Remember, they control everything. That's part of its value. Privacy and security. Hello. Did we not hear anything about what was going on between Apple and the federal government recently? And that may not be over, as it turns out. Apple is about protecting user privacy. It does. That's what it does. That's part of what helps separate it from the pack. So it makes sense that right now, Apple, let's say, licenses its search engine results from Bing, that you could easily change search providers in Safari and give users the flexibility. But currently, Apple really doesn't have its own data. Now, what got me thinking about this particular topic was in searching for something for one of the patrons, Kimberly Johns, who does custom pop vinyls and is a geek, a wonderful person, really. Here's my custom pop vinyl. Not that I'm, trying to not talk about the topic, but I'm just giving a shout out. Very grateful for this. You can stand here. I'm talking to my pop vinyl here. She asked about a Windows Movie Maker program. Now, I'm not talking about Microsoft's Windows Movie Maker, which is a part of the Windows Live Essentials or whatever they decided to call it. It hasn't been updated in years, to my knowledge. And she was looking for a simple video editor, something that was just straightforward. And I came up with a few alternatives for her, including editing video, say, on her Android phone, which she has an Android phone, and that's why I would have recommended it. She was looking for a Windows video editor. Now, I know there are tons of Windows video editors out there, trust me. I'm sure the list is a mile long, but when I went searching on Google for valid results, the first page was full of crap. I mean, crap. I looked at the links and the descriptions, and I'm like, this is a crap farm right here. This is not good. I would not send this list of results to anybody. Nor would I recommend anybody ever look for a Windows Movie Maker download on Google, at least. I didn't even bother using Bing. I probably should have. But I'm guessing Bing probably has the same results, which is even more dastardly, because a lot of the sites that got served up looked like they were nefarious. Yet Google ranked them. Why? Because SEO. Yeah, that's how Google works. So I'm not saying that SEO is to blame. I'm saying that, generally speaking, usually the sites that rank higher in Google results are ones that know how the system works and are making a hell of a lot more money than most other websites out there and have a reason to keep at the top of the results list, and that is to make money. So that kind of scared me, and I thought, wow, that's bad. Now, granted, I was visiting this on a desktop, but I could have been using a mobile device. Why would I want to see crap? Why would I want to see junk results? I don't care if Google serves up 2 billion possibilities. What is it? Even, let's just say, conservatively, 100,000 possibilities. I'm not going to click through to that many pages, 10,000 pages, or whatever it happens to be. Who's going to do that? We're going to look at the one page. That's it. First page. If it's not on the first page, forget it. If it's not even the first 3 results, forget it. So why bother with all the other links? Why? Why bother with links that are just bad? So Apple would know, potentially, and Google should know better as to what is going to be a web page that's going to get served up that is likely not doing the user any good. Apple and Google have done a decent job at informing users when they're visiting an unencrypted page versus an encrypted page, visiting a page that has been flagged for phishing, bad things in general. But ad networks can be just as bad. And JavaScript can serve up some pretty nasty things. Google could effectively put a curb on this, and they might at some point in the future, but I don't know if I'd expect them to, because Google doesn't necessarily put user privacy and security in the forefront. Necessarily. Outright. Not like Apple. So when I talk about a search engine, I don't necessarily mean a web-driven search engine. So I had to speak through it to give you clarity here. I'm talking about you use Siri, which is a technology that works half the time, all the time. I don't like Siri. I'm not a fan of Siri at all. I think it's a failed technology on so many fronts. But when you see the list of search results, because it can't figure out what you're saying, I don't understand what you mean. Play this song. Here are a list of search results. What I'm saying is that if Apple was serving up that data and it was Apple cultivated data, I think it would be better for the most part for the user, because the user is on a mobile device, let's say an iPhone or an iPad, an Apple device, and is going to want to see a list of results that's going to be relevant for them, not just their query, but the type of user that they might be. And by farming out their database, if you will, to another company, they're yielding a lot of that value. And that, I think, is going to become more and more important for Apple as it continues. So privacy, security, and control, I think, is the first pillar. That's one pillar, because the two separate ones I've alluded to already. Cultivation for maximum user experience, I think, is the next reason Apple would want to take this in-house. Because remember, Apple controls, and that's one of the reasons why Apple's done as well as it has. Some people would argue that it hasn't necessarily done as well as it really has, and it's difficult for me to talk about this stuff when I got my cute little daughter staring at me from across the room. No, Daddy has his socks off because he bashed his toes before starting TLDR, and it kind of hurt. So I'm sorry about screaming like you a few minutes ago. So to me, having that user experience is going to become a selling point for Apple's devices or Apple's ecosystem. So, for example, this then might extend, maybe not to the web. I don't think, people, if you're not using OS X or Safari, are necessarily going to be inclined to use an Apple cultivated search engine or results. But I think it could go a long way in cleaning up a lot of the junk that Google's kind of indexed. And I will blame Google for that. I'm thankful that Google exists. Don't get me wrong. They do a lot of great things. This isn't a Google slag fest. But I'm just saying that for Apple's products, I think it makes a lot more sense for Apple to control that data for a better user experience on their devices. All of their devices. I mean, and think about your own patterns. Think about the last time you used a device and got a list of search engine results, whatever you choose to use, and looked past the first 2 or 3 results. Jedi, can I have my device? Thank you. I don't want you searching for anything wacky. She does that every so often. Wait until she can verbalize actual words beyond bottle or more. So to me, that I think is primary and core to Apple's strengths. And it makes sense that they could do it. In fact, I'll go a step further. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple did something like this. They took Bing's data and they just serve it up raw, or maybe it's slightly modified. But what if they culled it? What if they cultivated it even further? What if they narrowed it down to make it easier for people to not see crap when they went searching for things? That's all people want. I mean, unless you get this feeling, unless you're the type of person that really honestly believes that more is better. Well, okay, because of course the measure of a good app store is how many apps are in it, right? We've got 40 gazillion apps. Really? I only care about 4 of them. Who cares how many apps you have? I only care about the ones I want to use. Bigger isn't always better. So I think cultivating the user experience is that second pillar that Apple could easily stand on in creating its own search engine. Again, I use that term loosely when people are searching for things, because that's our definition, right? I mean, you might go to the desktop to search for something, or you can search for something on your mobile device. You're just searching. That's what it is. Your search. And I think the third reason, and if they are not able to cull or, kind of basically comb through Bing's database, I think the third reason they'd want to do this is one of the reasons that I had brought up in the private portion for patrons yesterday with the TLDR. I talked about how Apple's looking to build its own data centers and build its own equipment because they're now starting to worry that the equipment upon which they rely for a lot of their cloud services may have been compromised. Like in the process of transitioning from where it was built to where it was housed, there's the question of were things done to those machines to allow for backdoors that Apple otherwise would not have been aware of. This is news that has come to light. Apple started down this path with the project, and they can do it. This is actually good news because if Apple brings those types of servers in-house and they rely on their own technology, that's going to have a trickle-down effect. The technology they build for the enterprise is going to have a trickle-down effect for the consumers out there, you and me. The third thing, to put a finer point on it, is less reliance on third parties. Less reliance on third parties. The more Apple can bring in-house, the better off they are. Now, you may say, well, look at what they did with Apple Maps. Google Maps has problems too. I don't know if anybody's talked about it. I know Earl last night tweeted me a story that because of Google Maps, the wrong house was demolished. It's data. Whether it's from Google or Apple, Apple's done a lot to improve their processes. It's not, the first iteration that was released to the world. I mean, that's how services evolved, and Apple has, kind of stayed on that edge. And I'm not even saying that Apple's nailed services. They haven't. They're getting better. They are getting better. But their selling point is a good user experience with privacy and security taking the forefront of a user experience. I think it makes a lot of sense for Apple to power your search. Not as a traditional search engine. Like I said, I don't think it would necessarily have a web-facing entity, or it could be the iCloud search, whatever they want to call it. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I have no insight apart from the insight I've laid out as to why I believe it's to be believable. And I'm sure, some smarmy SEO person's like, nah, that's never going to happen. Really? Okay. We'll see. I don't know. Here's the thing. I can wait 5 years, and if it happens, I'm right. Or I can wait indefinitely and never be wrong. But, just take it in stride, even if we disagree. You got to understand, you're disagreeing with a man who wears underoos on his head. Okay, I am going to move on to, and on his body, this whole body. I am going to move on now to the daily Pirillo picks, and I'm going to have fun with that, as I have fun every weekday with my patrons. After that, I'm answering questions, interacting with the community, talking about the rest of today's news. You can join me and become a patron by heading over to chrispirillo.com. Today's free podcast highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from chrispirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me every weekday, plus other bonus content without ads, and support me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you daily. Again, get more through chrispirillo.com.